Yeah.
I'll say we're starting a new video, but I do have some video. This will be tagged along. Michael Freich from Colorado. This is a 58 190 SL that he's going to do some work on and make it safe for his wife. There'll be some other video in front of this, but this I'm going to kind of consider this as a starting video. Obviously, you can see we're draining the fuel tank. One of the first things we got to do is get that taken care of and out of the way. Other video has shown what the car needs in different areas. Tried to show up in here the engine compartment where all this oil is coming from.
Water pump gasket and the water pump, the housing seal.
Yeah, water pump seal is leaking.
The water pump to the house, or the housing to the block seal is leaking.
Is that where some oil's coming
That's
out?
where the oil's coming out.
Okay, plus the
chain
tensioner,
Both
and it's leaking plenty.
Yeah.
Because the whole bottom of this you had cleaned, it's all covered in oil again. All right, so we're going to drop the front suspension out of here with the tranny. We're going to inspect his clutch. We're going to get the kingpins replaced, and we're going to change this front tube all the way across. He said he wants his wheel bearings, the new seals in the wheel bearings, because he said the grease seals appear to be leaking. The rear end,
overpacked the wheel bearings.
The rear end is pretty dirty.
Rear end is shot.
And noisy. And
outer wheel bearings are making a lot of noise.
The outer wheel bearings are bad.
Oh yeah.
So you don't think the center has to come apart?
I don't think so. It didn't sound like the center.
We can check the backlash and kind of feel.
On the hoist, and we were listening to the center. It didn't sound too bad. But if you put your head right here, you can hear this wheel bearing is just chattering really bad.
Singing to you.
And that one we know is bad because the axle's leaking out of that side. So.
Oh, there's grease in his brakes.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. We got to clean that out too then.
Pull that all apart.
Well,
pretty much gonna have to pull it around.
He's got a homemade exhaust.
Yeah.
But as long as it's operational, he doesn't care.
It's quiet.
It's fairly quiet. It has a small resonator up front there.
If I can get up in here.
I would like you to relieve the. He said it chatters.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it does.
So we're gonna have to relieve the wiring.
This bracket's broke off, so we gotta fix that.
All right, so we can hang his exhaust back up. I know it's not bent quite right because it's a little close out here, and it might rattle here too. But maybe we can put one of them rubber bumpers in here.
This is just welded to the exhaust, so and it's not in the right position or the right spot. So
we can cut it off and move it.
It's actually got to be moved so the exhaust is bent wrong.
Yeah.
So it's going to hit either here or the gas.
Well, I can see it. You can't put your finger between.
You're almost going to have to heat it up.
You can't put your finger in between here.
Yeah.
She's tight, and you do not want it laying against the gas tank.
Right.
And it's real close to that too. Real close to the gas tank.
Well, they don't give you a whole lot of space between.
It's so close to the gas tank, it's wiped the paint off it.
Well,
look,
it's been vibrating. That's why they put that wire up there.
He's chafing his gas tank paint right off that baby. Yeah, you don't want that. So we get a couple hours into it. We're gonna have to.
I would almost put an original pipe right here and get rid of the.
We'll see. You're gonna have to figure out how to get these rocker panels off.
Yeah. They gotta be cut loose.
They're gonna have to be cut loose, and we're gonna have to touch up the body there when we're done. Have to blend the paint as close as possible, because he does not want to have to paint the whole car. Anyway, we'll get rolling here. Tank will get drained. Tank will get pulled down. We'll get some shots after a few more hours here, but there's a lot of disassembly that has to be done. Gas tank is drained. Trying to drain the radiator, and petcock spins around and hits the frame. Radiator is almost laying right on the subframe, so the radiator mounts are either in the wrong position.
I think they're.
We got to be kind of. Looks like you're past it now. Well, one of those might be a little bit bent, but you're getting past it enough where it's starting to drain faster.
Yeah, I'm taking it all the way out.
I was going to say, it's not running much, but the radiator cap's probably still on, isn't it?
Yeah.
It'll dribble out, but when we drop it down, pull the cap, it'll come out like crazy. Yeah. So we either got some subframe mounts that are funky, or the rubbers that hold the radiator in, or need some adjustment. We'll have to get at that area here as best we can. Front bumper's coming off because that whole mount area is bad, and there are holes through the inner fender there right above it that we got to patch here anyway. Oh, you're gonna drop that cap? Can you reach it from there?
I'm gonna wait all day for that, man.
Can you reach it from there?
Sure. Ready?
She's going. She's going like gangbusters now. Oh yeah, it's flowing out. His antifreeze actually looks very nice, Rob. I'm gonna guess that was recently changed. So we'll just filter it, and I'll get you some cans to put it in. Stone guards are off. This side here, you can see Bondo in here. Bondo formed us around that hole, but stone guards fit halfway decent, so we'll put them back on. This here is not shaped correctly at all. And you can see all the louvers in here where the Bondo is. But stone guard covers it nicely and actually fits good. This is just polish wax from when they waxed the car. So they should be accurate. We have to get the stone guards off because they go over top of this chrome or the aluminum molding. And that aluminum molding has to come off because these rocker panels have to be split here and cut off because underneath of it is the frame area that we have to replace. These are supposed to be gaskets here. These joints are supposed to be such that you can unbolt the rocker and take it right off. And these are painted right over. So we have to literally cut through the paint. You have to slice carefully through the paint. There's supposed to be a gasket here, and take that loose. So we'll do that and we'll get some more shots. Bumper, or the fuel tank is off. Enables us to get at, so we can patch up this little hole here. This bolt is sheared off inside that holds the exhaust up. So they made a bracket that comes off of here. We'll attempt to put a new nut inside of there. This has to come down here. The exhaust system is a homemade exhaust system. Front pipe is bent a little bit wrong. We can probably live with that. It's, as you can see here, leaking where they welded it together. The front pipe might be original, but they jammed it inside of a resonator. Tried to weld it. It's not welded perfect, but you can see it's leaking. You can see it's not even coming out straight back here, and it's bent, and it's also cracked and leaking. The rest of it's pretty decent. Still has the brackets and the hangers, so we'll position it. It was so close to the fuel tank, it was rubbing on the fuel tank, peeling the paint off the fuel tank. So probably have to. Rob was talking about heating up the joint here, bending it back, and then heating up that corner and bending it back. So we'll probably have to reshape it a little, but we'll get that exhaust hung back up.
We might have a really good used one
What, system?
The whole rear, just the rear from the
Yeah, we'll take a look.
resonator.
We got quite a bit of stuff back there, don't we?
From the resonator back. I think there's a really good use.
We have to drain the oil yet, correct? Radiator's drained.
We don't need to drain the oil.
Antifreeze is drained.
I want to drain it. And put it
Well, no, because it's all down here in the sump. We're going to be working on the upper anyway, right? So
yeah.
we might be okay. Not 100% sure. We're going to attempt to leave the front suspension in, hang this down as far as we can get away with. Probably pull that transmission so we can inspect the clutch for him. Get the kingpins off of here, get it rebuilt. Rebuild whatever is necessary, but do the least amount we have to help the guy out here with time. We'll clean this kind of stuff up right in place and paint it. And if we can get this down far enough to get that tube out of there and replace it, then that's what we're going to do. But we've got to get the firewalls cut out and things like that later. So if we decide to tip it on its side, then we will have to drain the motor oil. Otherwise, we'll have it everywhere. Moldings are off, correct?
Yep.
So you guys are going to head to lunch, and then we're going to come back. We're going to try and carefully, whatever we got to do here, we have to take a wire brush and peel that paint, find what's going on underneath.
Do it with a saw blade.
Saw blade. Because I do feel a bolt in here. We aren't sure if it's actually bolted, so we'll take the bolts off and see if there's anything that's going to come loose. But you can see that this is either bonded or welded together down here. So we know that you should be able to see that seam with a gasket inside. And there is no bolt inside of here that I could feel, and they've sealed that all off. So we'll probably have to cut through that. And then, so after lunch, we're going to take these off, get a feel for what we have to work with. And Rob's talking about taking the front suspension apart so we could get the kingpins replaced and rebushed, and we'll check the rest of the front end when he has that apart. We'll get shots after a few more hours. The fuel tank appears to be brand new. Really, really clean, really nice. Fuel came out clean. The drain had a nice filter screen inside, looked all brand new. So he shouldn't have any issues with the fuel tank. The antifreeze looked clean. So we've decided to save his antifreeze and use it over because it looks like it's really nice yet. So
test it, make sure.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get back in a while. Back on Michael's car. Trying to save the carpet the best they can. This sill trim is pretty beat up, so we'll probably end up talking them into putting a couple of those in there. The sill trim is vinyl and it was always carpet. They're pulling the, well, actually they have pulled the transmission. Let me get my flashlight here. Look at how much oil is inside that bell housing. Even the input shaft where the throwout bearing is just packed full of grease. How does it look up in there?
Like now, dry. Like it was replaced.
It could have been. He doesn't. He's not aware of whether it was or not. Well, the good thing is, all the oil and goo that's in that bell housing does not appear to be in the clutch at all, does it?
No. Want me to pull it apart?
I would like to pull. I'd like to pull the pressure plate off, just to inspect it. And if we're satisfied,
I can't put it back together till tomorrow. If you don't have a tool.
it's all right. If we inspect it and it's okay, then I'm not going to go any further. We'll clean it up with some brake clean maybe, and I'm gonna say that looks pretty clean. The transmission, however, does not look clean. We may have to consider at least putting a top cover gasket on this thing, spraying it down and cleaning it up. It's really, really, really dirty. All right, so this is the clutch disc. It's not new. It's not new, however, it isn't shot. That residue on there, oil, what is that? Huh? Looks scuffy, doesn't it? We might be able to sand that and clean it up. Yeah. It's not all oily, and that's a good sign. What's the pressure plate look like?
No. Little burner.
Something's been sliding. You don't think it's got oil in it, or you think someone's riding the clutch a little bit?
Flywheel.
Huh?
Flywheel the same way, isn't it?
I'm going to look at it.
Looks real goofy.
Here, I want to grab my flashlight again.
That's alright. It's burnt. Looks like it's sat for a long time.
Oh, it's got burnt spots.
It's got burnt and hard spots in it. We're probably going to have to turn that. Look at, you see all of them? The hairline cracks all through those hard spots?
Yeah.
I think I'll run that across the street and turn 4 or 5 thousandths off of it. See if it'll clean up. Yeah, I'll leave them out. Tomorrow I'll go ahead and let's see here inside. How much soot is there? Oh, there's plenty of nasty burnt soot from the clutch burning. Yeah, we got to clean that up. I don't think he needs the clutch, but we got to clean it up. The soot inside that clutch is almost 1/4 of an inch deep on the bottom. So that's not. Get a better look at that in a few seconds. He's almost got a. There's a little bit more light. There is.
Well, whoever put it together put Loctite on it, so. They actually somewhat knew what they're doing.
This is the grease and so on the input shaft. They got a little carried away. You don't want that kind of
I
vinyl.
wonder if somebody went through this transmission and they didn't seal on bolts.
Which bolts are you talking about?
All the bolts that go in the front of that transmission.
The front cover?
If you don't put sealing on that, it'll
You think it leaked?
seep fluid right out of it.
Well, put your finger into the oil that's there and tell me if it feels like
Well, it looks like
transmission fluid or if it feels like motor oil. Yeah, the soot.
it's like tranny fluid.
That might be 1/4 of an inch deep, but it was 1/8 of an inch deep. And I'm still wiping it off the.
And it's got a reddish tint to it. That's what's wrong. I might fold that apart, put a front seal in it or something,
They didn't seal the
and
bolts,
seal the bolt holes.
so it's
Every bolt.
it's
on-
transmission fluid coming out the front around the bolt holes.
Yeah, every bolt on that transmission goes right into the case.
So do we need to pull them out one at a time, put them back in with the tranny standing up, and
No, you just pull them off.
we don't need? You probably doesn't need a seal. It's really oily, but that engine was leaking so bad that it would have covered that transmission in oil.
If you want us to,
Huh?
if you want us to put a new gasket on the front, well, they don't make a gasket for the front, so
I don't know if they do.
they don't. I know.
Just sealer?
I pull it off anyway, and I'm gonna pull it in.
Well,
all the crap off
this thing should
We
have.
can pull the valve off.
This has hot
it. Oh, you were talking about the
burned
cover.
burn spots. My fingers are dirty. This has really shiny, glazy spots where the clutch has been slipping. He didn't say that he felt the clutch was slipping, but what I'm looking at in here, all this black soot and debris is burnt clutch material. So
Probably old clutch, because that's a new clutch.
the pressure plate, I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that's a new clutch.
It's dark.
And a clutch.
That pressure plate, maybe it'll clean up. It isn't worn out.
That's a fairly new clutch.
It's got a lot of surface left on it,
There ain't no
That's a
dust at
fairly
all
new
on here.
clutch.
but it's been slipping.
Has it, or did they replace it because the old clutch was slipping and they just
You
cleaned
just
it?
threw that flywheel, a dirty flywheel back in
They
there?
took a whizzer wheel around that flywheel and
I don't know.
stuck it all back together. I almost
Well-
guarantee it.
We'll brake clean that in just in case. I want you to just sand that up till the material is that light color that you'll get when you start sanding it. And then we'll clean up everything else. The flywheel looks fine. We'll just lightly sand that. See, those are burn marks where they got hot around the perimeter.
Yeah.
But those will come out. And then we'll clean up this, maybe 4 or 5 thousandths off of that to surface it.
Whatever you take, tell them whatever they take off.
Out the bottom has to come off the top. Yeah, I know that. So they're doing one for us over there.
And this does not.
Soon we'll pull that over.
I don't know. You got your flashlight?
Right here, under my shirt, there's a flashlight. I don't think it's leaking.
That's all oil that was leaking down the block.
Yeah, I don't see that rear main
The
leaking. Do
rear
you?
main's dry.
Good thing he does. We do not need to pull that if we don't have to. Good.
All of this looks like it was from the.
Yep. I'm thinking it blew off the engine and ran back.
I'm thinking it just came right out of that valve cover. Even the valve cover's still wet again. I cleaned it all off already.
We'll put a new gasket on. He can afford that, considering he's not going to have to pay for a rear main seal. So
Rear
he'll
main
be.
seal sucks because you got to pull them off.
Yep, he'll be in good shape.
The front looks wet, but it's not the main seal. I'm sure. Sure, it's just that tensioner.
All right. Well, it's about time to go home. It's about time to go home. So we'll call it good for tonight. We'll have to clean that up.
Let it down.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave my tools here. I guess.
I was showing you that bumper was off. Carpet is out. This panel here is out. What is inside of here? The convertible top frame? Okay. Convertible top is here all wrapped up. You can see we saved the antifreeze. There's the shifter. I'm going to put new shift bush. I know you're going to anyway. But
New shift bush.
you think you have it? You think it has new shift bushings in it?
Looks like it. They just didn't tighten them.
So he said it was kind of sloppy. Is it because they didn't put them in right? Good. Well, he'll be happy to know he doesn't have to buy those then.
In the very back one on the shifter itself might be worn just because they never tightened it.
Yeah, we'll check them. If they broke or whatever, we'll replace them. Did this have metal false floors? Or did it have all wood?
No, all wood.
All wood.
Pieces of wood screwed here and there all over.
Okay. Well, we'll be changing all that anyway, so we'll put the correct stuff back in. Were we able to save virtually all of the carpet, or did some of it pull apart because it was glued?
You can look inside.
The fuzz that you see is what came off the carpet. That
Oh.
part of it up there is up under the rear deck, so it really don't matter.
So you may be able to.
I mean, he'll have a couple bare spots in it.
Well,
We'll
we'll talk to him when we get it put in. Yeah, I know. Look at all the glue they used.
I know.
You can't get behind that with a putty knife. I don't think you can even. I don't think you can even warm. I don't even think you can warm it up with a heat gun and get it out of there properly. They used a boatload of glue. Is that a mouse nest?
Yeah,
Is there mice in it?
I know, but there's turds all around it. Sprinkles for your ice cream if you want it.
Oh, ice cream sprinkles.
Yeah.
Move that around once.
Are you kidding me?
Well, quit being a sissy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been living in there.
Quit being here. Put me in the system.
Alright, low model 480, pull the generator.
Oh yeah, they welded little metal pieces on for the wood
Yeah.
where there was supposed to be the metal false floor. Both sides. And the firewalls where there's supposed to be a ledge, they welded little brackets because they put flat sheet metal on there.
No, they put pieces of wood.
Yeah. Why did any idea what's going on with that tunnel, that big tear in the tunnel?
It's like
Well,
a
they
tight
cut it open so they can tighten the bolts on.
They did what? They sliced it so they could get at the front bolts?
Get that to training bolts.
Good grief.
People do that all the time. Almost the cars I've done have been like that.
Really?
Gotta hammer it down and weld it back together.
Well, he's probably going to have to spring for another carpet set. I'm looking at,
Carpet set?
yeah. He's probably going to, but there are alternatives to the real expensive square weave stuff. So the mice have been in here.
We'll send it to you and you can put it in.
The mice have been in here, eating up some of that insulation and using it for.
Well, they got regular carpet padding in there too.
Yep.
Man, as good as this thing ran, you can have a plug wire on.
Plug wires loose.
It wasn't. This one was on.
Just hanging there.
Yeah, it was just hanging right next to it. But it still ran decent.
You said it ran decent once it warmed up in here.
So once the car warmed up, you didn't even need a choke.
So maybe we have to determine how the choke is set, or he did say it's running too rich.
It is, but the chokes aren't even set right. You can see
Yeah, the chokes are probably set wrong.
One's pulled all the way back.
I see one's farther back than the other one. So we'll check the jetting. It may be that the chokes don't come off. Could be why he's burning so much fuel and getting it all sooty.
Well, you can smell it running rich.
Well, I'm seeing this lever is in a different position right now than that lever. This one's back farther.
Both should be in exactly the
They
same
both
spot.
should be dead nuts, and this wire is all kinked,
Yeah.
which isn't doing you any favors either. Do you usually have a bare wire going between? I thought we put another one like that with a bracket,
I just
and then it was
cut-
a little short bare wire over here.
Well, I do. I just cut a boot or cut a piece of this.
And slide it over it.
Slide it
Keeps
over
it from
just
kinking.
Keeps it from chafing too.
Yeah. We may have some of that left. I got
These-
some of that wire.
These brackets that they put on the carbs are on backwards. They should have been the other way.
The linkage leaning too far the wrong way.
Yeah, linkage is too far that way.
So looks
It'd be
like
better
it's,
if they came straight up instead of being bent.
we'll play with that.
But they did that, and then they bent this because this is supposed to come up through here.
This rod is supposed to come up through down here.
Yeah,
So
that's all right. I don't-
this should be back farther this way.
Yeah. See, these brackets should be turned around, so this would actually sit
Oh,
right
yeah,
back
you're
here.
right. You're right. Yep. Those are little things we can do.
Well, just to make it
Let me
right.
get her back together.
a little bit better.
All right. Well,
And then it's gonna have to buy a fuel line because I'm not putting a fuel line that's got 4 cuts in it.
no, I already have it on the list.
Okay. 'Cause it's cut 4 times.
The fuel line's got pieces and patches of rubber,
4 different places.
and yeah, we're not going to use that over. But he doesn't have the filter assembly, so we'll cap off one line and bring that single line up into here.
Weren't you going to put a original fuel filter assembly on it?
I don't think he wants to do it.
It's like $600.
Yeah, it's quite expensive to put it. So
Suck air after a little while.
all right, but yeah, we're not going to be able to save that carpet.
All right, I gotta run this thing back up in the air.
Okay, go for it. We'll get some more shots tomorrow.
It's inside the torque tube, the front tube. Pretty rusty in there, scaly. Cut the ends off, bumper ends.
Each side.
There's that, the driver's side here. There's the bumper ends, bumper mounts.
All right, back on Michael's car. Radiator's out, so on. Right here, do I have enough light? Let me just look here and see if I can. Yeah, actually, it's pretty darn good. Okay, now right here you're talking?
Yeah.
There should have been a fiber washer, a crush washer underneath of it, because behind here, engine oil is splashing like mad.
Yeah.
And because it was not there to seal that, you can see this is all dirty and cruddy, and motor oil was pouring right down the front of the motor.
Coming right through here.
Coming right through.
Right
Let me
around
back
that.
this off. Coming right around that.
And running right down the side.
Running down the side. Okay.
Why that's all covered.
This is also leaking around here, so we're going to reseal that. This is where the radiator hose goes, and
Corroded.
more than
cracked.
half of it is corroded away, and it's cracked beyond it a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he needs another housing. A 190 SL housing is going to be expensive, probably $250, $300 used. So Rob's thinking we have a sedan one where this outlet curves a little bit more, as long as we can still reach the radiator, you think?
Everything will reach.
We can sell him a sedan one much less, and he doesn't care of 100% authenticity. He wants functionality, so we're going to put, I think, a sedan one on. You can see that his bolt here is corroded and snapped off. Plus, we could fix that if it wasn't for all of this aluminum being literally eroded. We only got approximately 1/4 of an inch where the clamp might hold the water from. We can't take that chance. That thing's going to leak like mad. I'm afraid it will.
If not now, eventually it will be
Yeah,
worse.
if not, it could. It's going to get worse. So we will fix that. Probably put a sedan one on. We'll be fixing this. Now they cut out.
We'll put new bushings in the generator.
Yeah, the generator's all sloppy.
This is like,
That generator, all we do is take this upper strap off. Wiggle that again. You didn't do anything about that yet. It's
No.
just, that's the way the generator is.
yeah,
All we took is the upper strap to adjust it off.
right.
Okay. So the bushing mounts for the generator are shot.
It turns the generator funny.
And the belt will eventually wear or break. Okay? So they started cutting out the tubing in the front. We still have to cut more out here where the bumper actually mounts. It was very, very thin there. I'll show you here in a minute how thin. Well, you can see how thin it is here. The whole bottom of it's missing.
Yeah, that was all rotted out.
Okay, now they took that mount off. You see how thick the metal on the mount is? That's how thick the tube is supposed to be. This is the metal that was above that mount. I'm going to say it's less than half as thick. So that front mount would have eventually ripped completely out, and the front suspension would have been held in by the two side bolts and nothing in the front. That's not a good thing. It wouldn't have been crash, flip the car over kind of a thing, but it would come loose and make lots of noise, and
It would have put the fan through the
it
radiator.
would have put the fan into the radiator. And then here's, you can see how thick some of the areas were.
This is the top.
That's the top,
This is the bottom.
and the bottom is where that was. It's very, very thin. We can still use this mount, or you can see how heavy duty that mount is. That I didn't know that before. That mount is offset a little bit.
Yeah, they are.
I'll be darned. I forgot about that.
It's the other way that you were thinking.
So that's where we are at this point. Like I said, radiator's out. We're going to do this without taking the entire front suspension and engine and all that out. The engine does not need. The other thing we were going to do, because we just don't think it's any good, we see leaking at the back of the valve cover gasket. We're going to change this valve cover gasket. I think it's only like $12.
Yeah, they're cheap.
But I don't trust it.
I'm going to change the seal on this.
Yeah, when we saw in the back, when I was filming up through the back, I saw oil around the valve cover gasket in the back. And even though it was minor, you don't need oil. Oil just destroys rubber. These hoses up here for the heater, we're going to change because they're getting all soft from oil soaking into them. I won't trust them. They just squeeze too easy. So we're going to change things like that.
The motor mounts, that one's collapsed.
The motor mounts we know are collapsed because the fuel pump right here is laying on top of the steering gearbox. And I'm assuming when you accelerate, you're getting a rattle and a chatter. This thing, I can't get my finger even in between there. So it's definitely, this mount is definitely squashed right down. And that, again, is what happens with motor oil. And they are on his parts list.
Okay.
It should be. I did figure that.
Rubbers for the lower radiator mounts because they were crushed, and that's why it was hitting the subframe.
Is that why the radiator was so low?
Yeah,
these rubbers, again, motor oil destroys everything rubber, and it made the radiator sag about a half an inch farther than it should have.
Yeah, well, a quarter inch at least.
Yeah. So we'll clean this up. We'll spray this down. Whatever needs to be touched up with paint and so on. Oh, and don't forget, you were going to take at least that one bolt, if not pull the upper bolts and seal them. We know that bolt right there, you can see water trickling right down that. Looks like they put a brand new cover on here.
Yeah.
Looks like it's leaking right out of that one bolt and down. Just make sure that there's no other leaks. I don't want to fix one if there's two, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't want to take the cover off if we don't have to.
Right.
The oil housing, since you sprayed it down and cleaned it up, has not re-leaked, so that looks good. Oh, I have a whole bag of fuel filters that I got at an auction or something one time. I found in my office cleaning. I'll bring those out to you.
Well, these look new.
These look good. I'm just telling you. It just happened to remind me of the fuel filters. So, it wasn't the was it the tachometer cable, the speedometer cable? That speedo cable goes through the frame, and that has been pieced all together. All right, so we got to fix that. All right, well, we're good. We'll get some shots. They got a little more cutting. They're getting some specialty tools that can get in here a little closer proximity and cut the rest of that out so we can slide a whole assembly up in here and weld it in. There's repairs they have to do. Right here, there's rotted holes through this. There's a rusted hole through the inner frame. Is there one here too?
Oh, yeah. Probably. Both sides.
Both sides? So there's a rotted hole in here and right down here. I think I filmed it from the bottom before. So we'll do that patchwork when it's up in the air when they're putting the tube in. But again, it's going to save them some time and money because we're not pulling as much out of here as we expect it to. No, we don't have to. But you can see. You can see the difference between the top of the tube and paper thin, nearly nothing left on the bottom of the tube. Don't forget, I know you saved it over here because they're on it, but you have your horn mounts on these pieces that you saved. Boy, the bumper ends, they're not worth saving. One's even bent. It's bent a lot.
Bent funny.
Well, one of the bumper brackets are cut out and everything.
You think they cut one of the bumper brackets to fit this bent frame piece?
Oh, yeah.
Can we fix it?
The bumper bracket, yeah.
Can we cut it off and weld it back where it belongs?
No, they just oblong the hole with a torch.
So we can weld it up and
Weld it
regrind
up,
it?
yeah.
Okay. Let's, yeah, we'll have to fix that. This is the way it should, look, nice and straight. And you can see that we're not going to use these over anyway. We make new ones. And they're really, really thick with new bolts in them, new nuts in them. Okay. Well, we'll shut her down for now. So tomorrow also, you're bringing in some different tooling to cut off these rockers.
Yeah.
Do you think you have to cut that there?
I would. If it was me, if it was my car, I'd cut them off.
Probably have to. You could ask him what he wants to do because we could match the colors close, so we couldn't blend it up a little.
These are all, yeah, that's what we're going to have to do. But I'm saying these are all welded and patched together.
Right.
I don't know how they left that seam there.
There is no inner piece to bolt to. It's all rotted out.
Yeah, I reached up under there. Only one spot on here is there a bolt.
Right.
The rest of them are all welded together.
Yeah.
So you either have to take a cut-off wheel and cut that off. Tomorrow, why don't you take something and remove the paint, see exactly what we have to work with. Oh, you did?
No, you didn't remove no paint. Oh. On the rocker, yeah.
It's all brazed together or whatever. Welded together.
Yeah, I see some brass, I think.
And then they just filled it with filler and
They left a crease in there so it would look like it was a proper crease,
Right.
but they didn't bother to do that here on the bottom.
Right.
So this is overlapped and welded too.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say you're probably going to destroy the rocker panel getting it off?
So far we haven't, but it's possible, yeah.
You know, see what you can do. I can supply you with.
I'd rather cut into those.
I can. This is already shot through here.
We'll
Okay.
see what we gotta do.
I can supply you with a portion of this. I can't supply you with a portion of that. So if you can save the
I
rocker,
can make that.
if you can save the rocker, cut back behind here, and I got some of these rejects where we can cut the front off or whatever. So try and save that. On the fender, I don't know what to tell you.
Do you want a jack port on this side? You gonna replace this frame rail? On
That frame rail, I'm pretty sure we're going to replace, and I got a new jack port on
You
it.
won't know until you take that off, and if
Right.
you're gonna replace the frame rail, that has to be cut off because there's no way to get to the bolts otherwise.
Yep, that's true. They completely shut it off underneath there and seal it off too.
Yeah, even if it wasn't, there's still
Yeah.
Still that lip that you got to try to get
Yeah.
up around it.
So either way, we got to cut. If we have to change that rail, we have to cut this off approximately this high, and we can put another one back on or that one back on, depending on what it looks like.
I would say put another one back.
It looks like it's all banged up on the bottom and full of Bondo,
filler.
Yeah.
but we'll see. You'll know more in the next 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or even by it. We pictured the flywheel before after we pulled it out. It's been machined. We're actually doing 2 cars here right now, some engine work. This particular flywheel, we're completely rebuilding the entire engine, and this flywheel actually needed a ring gear, so the ring gear is gone. This flywheel is from Michael Freich's 190 SL, the 58, and the ring gear is a little nicked. You can see the shiny spots out here. It's kind of rough. I may take it's not too bad back in here, but these things usually stop in the same spot, real close to the same spot each time, but not always. You can see the shiny areas. Those are wear and scratches on the, and burrs on the flywheel ring gear. Not bad enough where it needs to be replaced. Just kind of clean it up a little bit. It should more or less look like this side, with tiny little bevel marks. They grind an angle so that the drive from the starter has a nice smooth slot to spin into. So these bevels here are almost completely worn off, and it's so it won't go in as smooth. We might be able to just take like I said, a grinder or a sander and improve the bevel a little bit. From a top view, you can see that the ring gear is worn but not shot. You can see that this has a slight, if I can get it straight up and down here, has a slight angle this way. It's supposed to have a slight bevel this way, which it still does have a little bit. We'll just kind of clean it up. They're kind of expensive, and it's cheaper just to clean that one up. But from what you saw before, this has really cleaned up nicely. We have to retain 29 millimeters from this face to this face, plus or minus the thickness of a human hair, about 3.5 thousandths. So, and we've done that. So this has been machined and this has been machined, and we only had to take off about 4 thousandths. I had it done across the street here from us,
company that grinds cranks and bores engine blocks. They do racing engines. And then this was actually put in a machine and balanced. I think it was even mounted on the crankshaft, and the crankshaft was balanced with this in place. Nope, I'm thinking of the other car. Sorry. All they had was the flywheel for this one. This one was balanced on the crankshaft, and they would bolt this to the crank that they have over there and spin it up and grind any material off here and there, which is what you'll see these holes like that. They'll bore holes away from the bolt mounting, and they'll take some material away so that the thing is balanced properly. We did not do that with this one because we don't have the engine apart, so I'm mistaken on that. So, but this will go back in. You can see that the surface is 100% better. We'll clean up the clutch and put that back in. Now, they've already been working today, getting ready to pull the kingpins out, but they've already got this one side here where the tube comes through. They've got a good bit of that chopped away, and they'll repair that area above. This side over here, they're about to come in here. You can see the little leftovers of the tube. They're going to cut into here and grind that back and expose the main frame rail here so that we can slide a new tube in there. It's kind of difficult with the nose panel so close in the way, but it's what we have to do to get this done. So this is Thursday. I think it's the 23rd or 24th. I'm not sure. I didn't check my deal here today, but this is the 25th of January 2018. And we'll get some shots here probably later in the day. When they get this out, we start putting the tube back inside. Back on Michael's car, we were going to attempt to clean up what we could here. We came to check these rubber seals on the upper control arms, and there aren't any. There's supposed to be a big rubber band like right there and right there. Right in there. There is one. I don't know if you can see it very well. Right here. Okay, you can see that that has a rubber seal that's kind of flared out. That's what these are supposed to have, to retain grease, but to keep dirt and grime out of the threads. Otherwise, it'll just destroy these front control arms. They pivot back and forth there, and they got to be sealed. So there's one, two rubbers, nothing there, nothing there. There's only one on the other side. The only true way to get to this is to drop those, and the best way to do that, unfortunately, is to pull the front suspension down out of the way, which we were not going to do if we could help it. But look at this side over here. There's no seal up there at all, just metal to metal. No seal there. No seal there. But there is one there. It's like a big rubber, about a half-inch wide rubber band to keep grease in and keep dirt out. And right here there's nothing. And again, nothing. Very difficult to work up in here in these enclosed areas, but those knuckles need to come apart now and be cleaned and get all the grime out of them. We've inspected the rubber mount on the front of the car. It's almost as hard as a hockey puck. We're going to see if we can't clean it up and save it. We were hoping to not have to change. It's kind of an expensive package. It's over $300 to buy new rubbers for the front end, and we're trying to alleviate that. It appears that we're going to have to drop the front suspension, pull the motor out of the top. It'll give us a chance to detail the motor a little bit better and clean it up, paint it, drop it back in. But it's going to be quicker that way than to try and work in this confined area
and take all this stuff apart and try to do it with all that in the way. So we'll just let the customer know that's what we're going to have to do. Back on Michael's car. We showed this while it was in the car, but get a feel for how sloppy this generator is. Everything here is pretty much worn completely out, so we got a generator remounting or repair kit for that. They didn't have the proper seals on here, as we mentioned. We're gonna take care of that. We're gonna clean all this up, as well as change the seal under here. This isn't perfectly round and quite corroded. Rob, we're gonna have to sand this where this mounts.
Oh, yeah.
See that rotted away here?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not gonna kill anything, but this being kind of pitted, I want you to kind of sand that up.
That'll always leak.
Yeah, I don't want to have any leaks there. I did. I'm gonna pull you a new gasket here. I got everything else out here for you.
Rob went to go get the engine stand, so.
Okay, I'm gonna get that gasket for you. I got new motor mounts here. I was feeling for a dent because this was laying on the steering gearbox. While this is up, I want you to see if the steering gearbox has any oil left in it.
Okay.
You can see a lot easier now the trail of water from this bolt coming right down and running out and dripping off the bottom of the motor. They did not seal around this bolt properly, so we'll pull this one. It appears that none of the other ones are. While you have this down, can you clean and paint this?
Yeah.
Clean it up. It has a zinc coating on it,
Okay.
but as you can see, it will tarnish and try to rust on them.
Right.
Hasn't been on here very long. While the valve cover is off, I do want you to retorque the cylinder head. I think he's had work done. After so many hours, these are supposed to be retorqued anyway.
Okay.
While we have it apart, just have Rob go through
Torque, yeah.
and retorque the head. I add about 10% to the torque specs. He's already adjusted the carburetors some, so we'll play with that after the engine goes back in. These have to have a specific torque too. We didn't put them on, but I just want them checked because I don't want any possible leaks from the manifold. But anyway, as you can see, the motor is out. We just had to get things out of here to open it up. Easier to change the motor mounts with it out of the way. It's easier to get at things in here and clean. They have to repair these inner fenders, so it just made better sense to get it out of the way. It's easier to get into where these bumper tubes are rotted away. Easier to get in there and grind that stuff out, getting a little more space. So what we're going to do is we're going to check the bottom of this gearbox. We'll check the play in it as well, but we're going to check the bottom and see if it needs a seal. If it's empty, it's going to have probably leaked out somewhere. So if it's empty, we'll pour oil in it, and I'm pretty sure that the bottom seal is going to be bad. There is a seal here, and there's a seal here at the bottom of the pitman arm, and there's a gasket under the top here. It's still a little bit oily from the motor leaking like crazy and so on. You can see that this, compared to that one, this is totally collapsed, and that's beginning to. Oil and motor mounts just aren't good. This one's all covered in oil. They'll be all mushy and the motor will settle. That'll fix some of the other problems, rattling and so on, that he was having. And then he's got a rattling problem in the exhaust, and we'll fix that later. I brought out a new battery box because I'm pretty sure the bottom of that one's all toast. We'll get a shot of that here. We didn't film, the battery hasn't been removed. We didn't film the bottom of this battery box, did we?
Here, I can take it out on
Can you lift that up a little bit, or pull it out?
Take it out and put it in the box.
I thought we looked from the bottom or something and decided that was bad, so I did put one on the list. But let me go ahead and film it. Someone pieced bits and pieces of sheet metal in here, but it's all rusted out. And there's no drain, so it'll collect moisture, it'll collect water. I'm hoping they didn't cut this firewall out up too high. We can trim that out, put him a new box in there, and then he won't, with a drain in it, and then he won't have any future worries. His main rails are decent. That's a really good sign. Okay, they're going to get the motor on a stand, makes it easier to work on, easier to clean up. Here, I can lift this up. I can angle it here.
Still gonna have to go up. Just lift it up. Okay. Drop her like a stone.
Back out?
Yep, back out.
Okay. I already went over some things on here, so we should be good. We'll get back a few more hours. We're going to drop that. Are you going to drop the front suspension today, or are you going to work in the rocker panel areas? Okay. Back out here on Michael's car. Show the transmission out. Radiators out. Drive shaft. The rubber coupling of the drive shaft, even though it got a fair amount of oil on it, it feels pretty resilient yet. You can see it's properly located into these little pinholes here. You can see I can't like pull this off, so we're not going to change this. That looks good. That's not so good. The holes in the end of his drive shaft are no longer round. Something has been, I don't think the guys even noticed that. Something's been loose. Can you see in the picture that the bottom hole is not round? It's all banged up on the edges. That's banged up. This one's pretty darn round. So 1 out of 3 holes. You can see that this is kind of banged up in here, even in here a little bit. There's a big chunk of metal knocked right out of the drive shaft here. It's not even flat. Let's see about this other side here. There's a chunk knocked out of the drive shaft here. Where the holes aren't round, this one here where the hole is fairly round yet is less beat up. We're going to have to hold the bolts in there. He may I'm going to check other drive shafts. This drive shaft is beat up here and dented in, back to round here, all flattened out and smashed right here. I think this drive shaft at one time came loose and banged around inside the tunnel, because it's all beat to crap, and the bolt holes, 2 of the 3 bolt holes aren't round any longer and all beat up. Darn it. I'm going to have to check the flex joint. I'm going to check the transmission here too. This is where it was bolted to the transmission. we'll check and make sure there's not slop. This one here looks elongated. Not the best news that I wanted to come into today, but we'll have to see what we can do. Front tube is fully removed. They're cleaning this area up here so that they can repair it. The rubber boot that he has here that goes from the headlight has crumbled away. This is a rubber grommet that is actually this full length here going up into... Oh, wait. Nope. He has the style where the metal tube comes out. He just needs the grommet here at this end. We do have those. You just got to take the wiring loose from the headlight and put a grommet in here and rewire it. Holy mackerel, is that rotted. I'll check the other side. This is supposed to be soft rubber, and you can see it just crumbling away. Let me check this other side here. Oh yeah, hear a crack like Rice Krispies. That's supposed to be a soft rubber grommet. Something's flashing on my screen here. What is it telling me? Battery's getting low, I guess, is what it's trying to tell me. All right, make this quick. Cut these frame caps that were rotted and smashed off of here and off of there. And they told me when they pulled the drive shaft, debris came out. So what we're going to do here is find out what that is. Oh crap. Hope I don't get bit. Drive shaft bolt is here. Well, we're going to be running a vacuum in through there. Something's been storing seeds for the winter. I can't reach any farther, and there's not too much debris beyond that second cross member. So, oh, there's one of the drive shaft bolts on the floor. We'll get that vacuumed and cleaned out. We'll check inside of here. We'll probably cut some small flaps out and clean the insides of these frame pieces. The factory never put any primer in there. So they'll be cutting the rest of this back, cutting this stuff out so we can replace the floors, and they'll be putting a new tube in here shortly. And I'll go charge the battery on this piece so we can take some shots again later.
I don't know if that part's bent.
Okay, battery's going dead. They've been pressure washing. That's where the guys were when I was out filming. And they're cleaning up this front suspension, cleaned up the motor. They got to reseal that bolt yet, right?
Yep, and I got a new gasket for that side.
Huh?
I got a new gasket to put on that side. I figured I'll change it. I got to pull bolts out of that to put the stuff on it.
Oh, and that thing looks...
So,
can we clean that cover up and make it look nicer too?
well, I'll clean it up once I get it off.
All right.
But I wanted to
All right,
change that gasket because once you put that motor in, you can't get to that gasket.
All right, here's the thing we got a problem with on the front suspension. This side has no rubber seal here. No rubber seal here, but you can see this gap. Just about I get my pinky in that hole, get my pinky in this hole, okay? This side, there's no gap here at all. This whole control arm, this nut has been adjusted to where there's no threads virtually left. Whole control arm's been pushed this way, and they stuck a metal
shim or a sleeve in here, I can get my whole hand inside of here. I can't get the tip of a finger inside of there. You can see the difference in that distance. You can see here that it's pretty even top to bottom. The shape fits right around here properly. This, if it went down any more, would literally ram into and touch right there. We have to take this apart to put new seals in it, but we got to figure out what the heck they did here. I don't know if something's bent or...
That control arm's bent.
We do know that he said they couldn't adjust the caster and camber because of that upper top piece. I'm wondering if they shimmed this back to try and align the car. It's totally improper, but I'm just saying, I don't know.
I don't know.
Battery's about to go dead, so what I'm going to do is go charge this thing up. I'm going to get all the film I've taken so far. This is Friday the 25th? Yeah, no, 26th. 26th? All right, this is Friday the 26th of January 2018, and we will get this cleaned up pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
We're going to change only what's necessary on here. He's put a lot of new parts on this already,
I'll clean it up better once I get it forward.
and we'll pull that down. We got to figure out what's going on with this piece here. We're going to have to replace these upper repair kits and the kingpins. We're not sure about the lowers. Battery went. Back on Michael's engine. He needs a support bracket to go to that hole right here, or the weight of all of this will destroy this gasket and the gasket at the cylinder head and cause leakage. Okay?
When they made these carburetor adapter plates, they
They didn't leave room.
They didn't leave
We'll have to go in with the drill bit
So
and,
we'll have to,
and hone that out, because you can't get a bolt through here right now. So in order to do that, we have to take a couple bolts out here and put, I don't know, it's laying here someplace. Here it is. Goes like that, or does it? Yeah, it goes like that. We have to put an angle bracket here with a rod. It's a new one. I have a rod and a bushing set that sets in here, and that rod comes up through here, and it's got an ear on it that bends over, and they bolt it here, giving you support for this, or it'll destroy your gaskets, like I said, and really wreck things up. And I know that he had the head machined and the intake manifolds machined, so everything would lay flat here, and that will mess things up. So this has to be here.
The intake is not matched with the exhaust.
It is, or shouldn't it? It's supposed to be, or shouldn't
Supposed to be, but
Yeah.
it's not.
That's what that I sold them a set of intake manifolds so they can fix that problem. Are you telling me they did not do it?
If you
Let me look down the top here.
you look at it from down here,
Let me look up here and see if there's any variation that I can see.
come here, you can see it plain as day.
This bolt here looks like it's leaning.
So does that one and that one and
All
that
right,
one.
let me look from the bottom here. The intake manifold is smaller than the exhaust manifold.
Correct.
You have to shave off the exhaust manifold also to match the intake manifold so they lay evenly. Oh boy.
It might not leak right now, but it will.
He'll just have to keep an eye on it. They didn't see. I sold him a set of these.
Yeah.
Okay, and because his were all beat up, I guess. So they machined these nice and flat.
Correct.
I'm guessing they did. And so this and this are supposed to lay exactly together. And you can see that that's leaning away, and this is leaning towards the manifold. This is leaning towards the manifold because this has been machined thinner than this collar.
Yeah.
This collar needed to be also machined so that the thickness from the top to the bottom matches this manifold from the top to the bottom. Then the gasket will lay flat. These studs will all be straight up and down and not leaning, and you can see this stud is leaning that way because they shaved this and not that. And this stud, it's hard to tell, but it's leaning this way slightly because this is thicker than that. But if it doesn't leak, you are going to retorque these though, make sure, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's got some time on it. Now you were, all right, now, so we have to take these bolts out, and they have a tendency to leak, so we pulled this cover. And this cover is very, very rusty and dented and corroded. So what Rob's worried about, and reasonably so, if we sandblast this, because it is so corroded and it's supposed to be real heavy, you can see that it's got a bend right here, like a crease in it. That's very hard to do. You can see how thick this metal is supposed to be. We're worried the center is thin. What I guess I can have you do is throw it in your cabinet and blast it and see what it looks like. I'm afraid it's going to be so thin you're not going to want to use it. But let's clean it and blast it. Let me look inside the motor here. They actually must have boiled this out. I mean, I got some chunks of rust that we'll kind of wipe out and clean out, but well, with this cover off of here, you think maybe we should take it back outside and pressure wash? I'm worried about, well, I'm not too worried about it. You were worried about the fact that they put a shim or something on here and you couldn't see daylight up through?
They put a shim on the cylinder head, and if you look up, I don't know if you can look up through there.
Yep.
Camera.
Yep.
But the shim covers most of the...
You got a rag up there? I got all this goo on me. All right. I see what you're talking about, I think.
Brake fluid on it, I don't know. So you might not want to...
I see the hole in the block, and I see part of a hole in the shim. It really isn't big enough. Rob, over here.
You can barely even see.
Well, I can. It's elongated, but it's only about a 4 to 5 millimeter hole. I can't see. Yeah, I can see the back one. I can't see a hole in the back one, but doesn't mean it's not there. I can't quite get a good look. My concern here is, as well as it should be yours, because you brought it to my attention. These cars have a tendency to warp cylinder head gaskets if they don't get enough water flow. That hole is probably 6 millimeter, but the hole going up through there is 10, is it not?
Yeah.
So they're restricting it. Doggone it, they shouldn't have done that. Can you hold that light here?
I don't know.
I'm gonna take at the end of an ink pen.
I don't know how.
I'll use a pencil. I just try not to break it off. Try if I can get up in there. No, the pencil's too long. Let me see if I got a short pencil. Not quite. I need a shorter pencil. Let me try an ink pen. Nah, it's too big. All right, well, I'll get something like a punch or something to go up in there. It's very hard to see without getting light up in there that the holes are small. I'm concerned about that, but I can't do anything about it right now without talking to the customer and saying, maybe you want to drive this and see how it is. The problem would be if the temperature gauge is running in the 160, 180, because it comes out of the head.
Yes, if the temperature gauge is correct,
then we're okay.
and it stays below 180, you should be fine.
Yeah. So I guess I'll ask
It
him.
gets up to like 200, then it starts to warp that head.
Yeah, I'll ask him about that.
And we can put a 150 thermostat in it.
Yeah, they don't run as well unless they're warm. So anyway, you did get a new gasket for that cover. I'd like you to wipe that cover down and bead blast it and see if holes appear, or I can drum it with my fingers where it's thin, we can't use it. The other cover is new,
Yes.
and that thing's strong as an ox.
Right.
Because it's like 14 gauge metal. That middle is no longer 14 gauge.
The problem with it though is if you sandblast it, there's nothing to protect that steel.
Yeah, there's a rust inhibitor in antifreeze. Unless you let it sit in there for 3 or 4 years. There is a rust inhibitor in antifreeze. I'm just wondering whether we should flush this out, because when I reach down inside,
Yeah.
I'm getting some muck and sludge out of there. I just think,
Not much, but
No.
I mean, there's a little.
I think we should just tip it on it the other way and pressure wash up in there and blow that out. Your pressure washer should blow that sludge right out of there. It was a little confined with the cover on. Now that it's open, let's do that. And let's see if that cover's any good. Now, what were you telling me on the front suspension? Oh, this. You told me they greased up. They greased up all these surfaces.
Yeah, you can see the other one. I got it in the first walk
You can see the back sides of these.
Are we gonna need to turn that drum, or is that drum? Can we clean it up? Whoever put it together for you, Mike. Can you hold that right there?
What's that?
This is lithium grease. It will work its way up into your brakes. So these are never supposed to be lubed. This is just left dry, right? Just slides on there. These brake shoes really never rub on there much. They'll
touch it.
they'll just touch it periodically. But
they've new style.
They pump so much. They pump so much grease into your bearings, and the seals weren't that good that it blew right out the back side and packed
and the front.
Packed in all around. So whoever put this together should not have put the grease on these slides. And it did get on your brake shoes, so we'll clean up your brake shoes so we don't have to replace them. And then we already got new seals we're going to put here on in your hubs. So we're going to wash this all up. Will this clean up enough where you can paint it?
I don't know. We're just going to wash it off. We're going to put kingpins on it. We can paint it. Right?
Yeah, we'll put kingpins in it. Get it cleaned up. I'll run it across the street. He's got the kingpin set already, and we'll get the kingpins done. Sooner we get that in there, you'll be able to make the darn
One of the
car rollable.
Controls are fine. The other ones, I don't know. We'll be able to get a park lot.
All right, let me see what you got here.
Kingpin, the part that goes through the kingpin
Uh huh.
is frozen right in place.
Yeah, they said they couldn't adjust it, which makes sense, right?
I've tried to get it a little bit more.
Sometimes I've had to heat these up. You can't get that pin out, you're saying?
The bolt should look like this one.
Yeah, because it's got that little cam on it, so when you rotate it, it changes your caster and camber.
That's why they had that steel sleeve on there.
This isn't the one with the steel sleeve. The other side was.
Correct.
The other side was. We don't know why they put that big shim in there and jammed this thing all over one way or the other.
That part is on here. Yeah, this is the part that goes.
It's froze out. The
This
bolt's
goes
actually
this
froze.
goes inside of here,
And that's what.
so
screws
it's
it.
locked into the kingpin.
Yeah, it screws into the kingpin, and that's what you.
Right.
So you can screw your thing forward
And this-
back to get your front and back adjustment
Yep.
of your wheel.
Yep. And that goes through there.
Then your
Well,
gas
I have
camber, your in out is with the bolt because the
I've
bolt,
had to take a torch.
bolt is king.
I've had to take a torch and blow these out before,
Yeah, I know.
and we may have to do that on this one. I want to save the control arm. He's got a new kingpin anyway, so
Correct.
but it's going to be a nasty, greasy, bonfire mess when you catch all that grease on fire.
I just cut them with a cutoff wheel.
You can do that too. A lot easier than with a torch.
Yeah.
You can take a cutoff wheel and blow it out
Especially now
of
that
there.
it's out of the thing.
Yep. You wouldn't have been able to do that in the car.
No. Well, you can't. It's just,
Are these a problem not being round?
no,
Just tap them back around?
not in my way.
All right. Well, I know we were trying to avoid taking this apart, but with all the pieces froze up and the pieces missing and seals that
Well, we had to do kingpins, which had to pop the springs apart.
that pop the springs apart anyway.
These we had to take apart, and they're easier to do on the bench.
Yep. Understandable.
And I got to figure out what the deal is going on with this one.
Is that the one with the shim?
Yeah, it actually looks bent. If you look at it, it looks like it goes like this.
Ooh, that don't look right. Not as much this way.
It's like,
This looks like it's crowned.
yeah,
Let me look at this one.
I almost guarantee it ain't.
No, that one looks straight. We should have plenty of used ones of these.
Well, we do.
If you have any issue with this at all, I do not know why they put a big steel sleeve in here, but it isn't right. You have to try and save these because they're not. I don't know if you can buy them separately anymore, but
Yeah, you can. They're expensive.
they're expensive. Let me just check something here.
That being bent just a little bit, that much of a shim.
No, see, I can unscrew this
Yeah.
and force it back that way. See,
Yeah.
but there's no. It gets really tight, and it shouldn't. Not that soon. So somehow them shimming it, they've stopped that from.
being able to adjust. Because you should center those.
You know what that is? That's that rubber seal. Yeah, poke it, cut it. That's that rubber seal. They've got this adjusted so far over, the rubber seal fell down in the slot.
Really?
Yep, that's not metal. That's that rubber seal that belongs up on the ledge. That's the rubber seal. They put this back together so far off, the rubber seal fell down inside the plate. That's good news, though.
Yeah, it is. But
They screwed it up.
still looks
This should go back. No, I'm hitting something really hard right now. I think it's bent on the end. Oh, I'm packing grease out. That's why. You got to take it apart and clean it because it's full of crap. See how the grease come out?
But they still probably couldn't adjust it because that rubber was in there.
Well, they didn't adjust this correctly, but the opposite side is the one that is so froze up you cannot adjust caster and camber. But we're replacing the kingpin, which does not come with that upper repair kit.
Oh,
But he needs that upper repair kit, so I did pull those.
one of them.
This will be okay. See it? It's smooth. It'll float. We'll get it centered.
It almost looks like it's bent. But
I don't-
once we get it out, I can tell you.
I don't think it is. I'm looking real careful here at it. I don't think it is. That's what happened. The rubber dropped down in. This was so far off adjustment, the rubber seal fell in here and they didn't even have one over here. So these got to come apart and be cleaned and then put back together. We might as well, it won't take too much longer, clean these up and paint them. Now that we have to go this far, clean them up a little bit, paint them up so when we put it back together it looks decent.
That'll take 2 hours.
I know. Are the bullets okay? This one's set too? This one I can twist right off. Yeah, that one's toast. Even no, there's the piece of it there. Both of them? All right. Oh, this one here is ready to fall right off. I'll take one to the office just to remind me to get you a pair. Okay, well, we can't save as much on the front end. We can't save as much on the front end as I had hoped, but we gotta take these apart anyway, that we were hoping we didn't have to do, because we weren't gonna take all this apart, but you can't put new seals in here with it on. So that's part of the reason we took the suspension right out. It's easier, it's a nightmare to do it with this all in the front suspension and mounted in the car. So you got one seal, there was like 3 seals out of 8, right? And 1 out of place. Alright. Well, what I'm going to do is get this video compiled today yet. This is a used one we had. The sedan one we talked about really isn't going to fit properly. Nah, it's going to be too close. Okay, so he's got to have a 190 SL one. All right. Anything here? No, he's got good Bilstein shocks. What about the, I'm going to save these. What about the little rubbers on the bottom? Those are okay? Do we need them? The problem is, if he doesn't need that whole kit, these, they're a little squashed. Let me see how much these are. This whole kit's over $300. So if I can save him money by just buying these aren't even the same thickness as one another. One's squashed more than the other, see it?
That's a front, that's a side.
Are they different thicknesses? So this one here got squashed a lot more. Okay.
That's the other side.
So you can live with just these 3.
2 side ones always squished by the...
Alright. Let me see if I can do that. That'll save him $300.
Oh. Stabilizer bar
What?
Stabilizer bar and
Yeah.
then go over here. That one's totally got all the rubber.
You're talking about this?
Yeah.
So you need a repair kit for the ends. Okay.
One. The other one probably usable, but
They come in a set. I'm not gonna put used. Look at, look how weather checked that is. And now these come in a set, so I'm not gonna put used rubber. That rubber is so stiff I could use it for a hockey puck, a miniature hockey puck. So I'll get you a set of these. Aren't real expensive, and he's got to have them.
no, they're not. They're like,
All right, I gave you new rubbers for the tops of these.
good, because those ones are bad.
Oh, his would be bad.
They're in here.
That's almost the. Oh, yeah, that's definitely bad. I figured they would be, so I did figure them out early.
Hard, too.
Oh, that just snapped like a pretzel? Yeah, okay.
Really ain't rubber anymore.
Well, I'm glad I figured them in. They're not very expensive, but I did figure them a long time ago.
The only thing I haven't done that is wheel bearing.
I got you seals. You just need to let me know whether the bearings are any good, right?
I gotta clean them up, yeah.
All right, pull them down, let me know, we'll film it. Let me get the, you're going to be able to save, the brake shoes look like they've been relined.
They have, and then they were greased.
And then they were greased, all right. Well,
I
you
think
should,
I can clean
you
them
could
out
save
today.
those. Yeah, we usually can. All right, I will get this, I'll get this buttoned up.
Upper seal on the,
Oh, we're going to, you told me that when you tipped it up, oil poured out of here. You said when you flipped that over, oil came out of here.
No, what
Yep. I'm wondering if is the bottom seal bad? Oh, was there still oil in it? So it didn't leak. So you only want to do the top?
Leaked down and all it was past the seal on that upper.
Okay, so to save a little money, we'll just change this upper one.
Yeah, later on or whatever, if you need to, you can change that lower. The lower is easy to change.
Lower can be done on the car with it on a hoist. Okay.
The upper's kind of a bitch, you got a full steering wheel.
All right. I'll get you the upper, some suspension rubbers, and please check the idler arm bushing. While we got this all apart, it felt okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I checked all that before I made it apart.
All right, we talk about you doing that, so that's good. So it doesn't need idler arm bushing. So we gotta sell him another water pump housing that actually has aluminum left on it. Man, you got a crack.
This water pump was on there. I mean, I don't know if it was starting to seep or not on the bottom of that weep hole or what.
You have a trace mark coming out of that vent hole.
You do.
That means
what they call a weep hole when that bushing goes bad.
yeah, that means your water pump's leaking. You would, well,
It's not leaking right now.
you wouldn't have a trail. You would not have a trail coming out of that hole.
I didn't see any fluid coming out of it.
That feels more like grease.
I kind of thought it was
You think it might be motor oil that collected? Everything was so wet. He didn't complain about losing all kinds of water. He should have been losing plenty out the side of that engine block on the other side. That cover.
Oh, it was water, but not a lot.
It takes a long time for that trickle to even show up. I would say hold the body. Hold the body of that. I feel no play. I'd say let it go. Like I said, I don't want to keep hitting him for
I know.
more and more parts here.
Well, the water pumps are kind of pricey.
They're 120 bucks, I think. Let's not worry about that right now. Let's see what else we might encounter here. And he's already got a pop for this.
Just show them
I can't put this back on. It's eroded away, plus there's a crack going back another quarter of an inch.
show them that already.
No, I didn't film that. This is your motor mount on your engine at the back.
Where the generator mounts.
Where the generator, the front, where the generator mounts. That hole should be perfectly round, which is part of the reason your generator flopped all around.
Like that.
It should look more like this. This has a tiny amount of wear. Yours has a lot of wear. Rob's going to weld that all up, re-drill the hole, and then we got to put a generator mounting kit, which has a set of bushings and sleeve and a bolt and some other stuff in there. Keep your generator from flopping all around. But this is part of the reason it was. Okay. I guess we got enough for now. You're going to clean the other hub up. And by tonight, what's what, 2:30? 2:30. By tonight, you're going to have the kingpin things apart to where I can take them across the street.
Yeah, I just gotta clean that one up.
All right, because they do work weekends. They work 6 or 7 days a week across the street. So,
I just have to degrease that one and you can take it.
all right.
So 15 minutes.
Is that
Yeah.
your can of Coke then? Oh.
All right. We'll get back in a little while. All right, back here on Michael Frick's part for his front end. We're lightly blasting stuff, not taking everything right down to shiny bare metal. That takes quite a while. But we're degreasing, cleaning, so we can prime these and get them painted. Same thing here. This has been all clean, kind of wire brushed, all degreased, so that we can, you know, scuff it up and get paint. It hasn't been blasted totally clean. That takes quite a while. And then you got to clean it, which because sand gets up inside and kind of gets a mess. Rear end we've got to pull down yet. It has been sandblasted. It has been pressure washed.
It's a replacement.
Huh?
Change that rear end at one point.
Someone put a different rear end in it at one time?
Pretty sure, because it's got a paint mark like from a junkyard on the side of it there.
Oh, like a salvage yard's paint stick with a number? Okay. But we found copper lines on here, right?
Yeah, that was the line that goes.
Pinched them off, cut them. Yeah. We're not sure about this line. Ooh, it's all rusty. That line's going to get changed.
This is a new line. That one's
all right, so we'll change that bad one. Leave the new one. Okay, you're taking this down so we can put a seal in here.
I gotta crack that nut loose.
Okay. You said this was fine.
Yeah, seems to be good.
Steering shock's been replaced. That's been replaced. Oh, you told me.
Somebody had put the wrong
Oh, you can't leave that on
bar
there.
on there, and they just cut them and put them together and welded it.
Ah, that's dangerous.
Both of
That's dangerous. You can't do that.
We probably got some good use.
You're going to have to find some used one. I'm not going to put a welded together tie rod. If that weld ever cracked, this is just a tube, right?
Yeah,
This isn't
it's a hollow
solid.
tube, no.
Yeah, if that's not straight or that thing cracks, whoever did that weld is liable. Whoever worked on the car is liable. The other thing that bothered me here, though, hold that right there. Somebody has put these on and off and split the rubber boots. See, we haven't taken this apart.
No.
And someone put a tuning fork on there, and they actually destroyed, what was it, most of them?
Yeah, every one of them.
Including the one in the middle here?
No, I don't know. I haven't seen any cracks on that one.
But on the ends.
But on the ends, yeah.
All right. If these are new, we'll try to put a new boot kit on.
All the outers are new.
The outer ones are new.
This inner one's new.
Okay.
I don't know about that one.
We'll look at that. But see if you've got some used tubes. I'm not going to put those welded together ones on there.
The floor is that side cover.
This is the side cover that we showed earlier.
Hold it up.
I don't see any light through it, but I will tell you, it is so pitted, so deep. Oh,
There's something there.
there's light shining through right there, right there, right there, right there, right there. So it's got holes all through it. All right. You said you found a good used cover? Oh yeah.
Well, that's good.
And you already sandblasted it.
I did that a long time.
All right, so here's the cover we found. Here's the cover he had on there that was very, very rusty, and we were afraid that when they sandblasted it,
Buckled too.
it's also dented. You can see this a buckled crease, partly because it was so thin, something hit it or rubbed on it at one time. I don't know. It's dented in. Here's the used one we're going to put on.
A lot of froze at one time.
You already have a...
Block freezes, that's what that basically is. It's like a freeze.
Ah.
The block freezes inside and it split that apart.
So you think water froze in the motor at one time, pushed that out. That makes sense. But it can't be used. I'm not going to braze up little tiny holes when all of these deep, deep pits are a hole waiting to happen.
Right. And that's the hardest part to change on that motor.
It's under the carburetor hidden.
Yeah.
All right. So when you put that back on, When you put that back on, anything exposed, this one's not exposed, this one's exposed.
Like every other one.
I would just do all the top ones with some sealer.
I do all.
Oh, you got bottom ones here too that are, oh, the side ones, these are exposed into a water jacket.
If I put a bolt in that motor, it's going to have sealer.
Yeah, good idea. You can see this area is hard to get to if the motor was in the car and it was needed to come off.
Some of the bolts I'm going to have to change. Some of the bolts for that side cover were rotted.
They were the wrong size too.
They were wrong length bolts.
Okay. So, is that it? We good for now?
Pretty much. Packed with old oil and grease. I don't know about that pinion seal.
I'm figuring
I
one.
can't find my socket, so hopefully I'll be able to find it soon, and then we can get that apart. I don't know if Gary has it or not.
We're gonna change this seal because this was so wet. I'm sure that it was leaking.
Yeah.
So I planned on changing that. You said the bearings were shot. You can hear them. We don't know about the ones inside of here because those were so noisy.
Right. Well,
So we're gonna put a.
I don't know.
We're gonna put a.
Pull this rear end down that far, dude.
We're gonna put a solid boot on, so it's got to come down at least to that point.
This axle.
Okay.
This axle half has to come on.
But when
I
that
don't have to pull this pig apart.
no, when that axle's out and this axle's out, I can feel this and tell if the bearings are any good or not, okay? And I can see in there from this side a little bit and feel the bearings.
I can't take this apart until
So
I don't have my tool to get the axles out.
if this feels pretty nice and smooth here,
Well, it feels pretty good.
but you said it was singing like crazy on the ends.
This end was singing really bad. No, this end was singing really bad, chattering.
Yeah.
This end was leaking really bad. But it still was making noise, but the axle's also leaking.
We'll pull it down. We probably should change both those bearings, the inner and outer seal. New boot here, clean it up, paint it, it'll look beautiful.
Well, they feel pretty good. The seals.
The seals?
They don't feel too bad. I'll know once I knock this apart.
You're going to have to change the outer ones. They're weather checked and cracked. Yeah.
I just pressure washed it.
See the crack?
Oh, yeah.
They're cracking there.
Yeah. Well, if one's cracked, you might as well change all four of them. What are
No,
they?
they're cracked.
$2 a piece?
Yeah. You got to pop this apart to get me a split boot,
Yeah, I gotta take
a full
shaft
boot
out
on.
there.
Inspect that bushing with the rubber in it. No, there's one this way. Right? No, it's inside of here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that feel okay?
Yeah. Solid.
That feels good. Okay, good. All right.
I can split it. Actually, I'm not going to do that either. I can split it in half. I'll wait until tomorrow. I'll get my fuel in the whole
That's
half.
fine. That's fine. All right. It's going to be a little noisy because 2 air compressors are running. He's pulling these down because they had no seals on them at all. And this is all full of grit and sand, and the threads are sandy. So the only way to really get these clean is to get them through our dip tank here and clean them up. All right, yeah, it's pretty dirty inside. Good enough. We're back. Michael's stuff here. They've taken the spindles apart.
What size is the ring now?
One of these lower knuckles
Size for the bolt that's going to go into it.
had a bad cross bolt. We have a good used one that Rob
Roll
found.
that out,
Do you have the old bolt?
and then thread it for the helicoil, and then it'll be a 6.
Do you have the old bolt I can film or not?
Yeah.
Someone has, at one time, oh, here. This is the bolt that came out, and you can see there's virtually no threads here, just beat to death. And on this end, we think it was in there loose, and there's,
At one time.
you know, at one time, you can see the threads are just chewed to pieces.
I think that was the one that had the new nut on it.
Oh, that one had the new nut on it?
I think so.
Okay. And then this is what they should look like. We had some used ones, so it's not a big deal. I don't have any new wheel bearings to show you, but these wheel bearings have been hot and they're tarnished. I will show new ones when I pull them out of a wrapper. This bearing, they feel halfway decent, but they've been hot. This one's been beat up by somebody punching it out at one time. The top of the bearing is all beat up with a punch. And we're not sure why.
It probably got frozen there.
I'll show the spindles here shortly. The spindles are all scored up like someone has knocked hot bearings off from them. These are good. They're discolored. This one, no one beat the living snot out of it taking it out. You can see that ring here is smooth. These are still a little bit dirty. We've run them through the...
That one looks like it's been replaced. Yeah, I know.
We've run them through the wash tank. We got to do it again because they're just full of sludge. Now, when I do that, I'll inspect these, the little bearings themselves. If these come out discolored, yet everything is smooth, then we'll probably leave them. But if I feel grittiness or any imperfections, like this one here, I don't like because it's not gonna. You can see it's not even round anymore. So I'm going to replace this one. It's pretty beat up. These here are tarnished like they were hot. But when we get them all cleaned up, we'll see if they feel smooth. If they're smooth, we're going to just use them. Did you get a chance to replace that seal on the steering gearbox? Okay, the seal I told the customer that he bought was the wrong one. It was this. That was the idler arm seal and not the gearbox seal?
Right.
Okay, so this is a new seal in here, and we're not doing this one. These are the spindles that came off of Michael's car. This shoulder should be perfectly smooth. It is chiseled and beat to heck, which tells me at one time wheel bearings got hot and froze up on here. You can see the pitted marks and the damage to the spindle. I'm going to see there's been no welding done, because that's a big no-no on these usually. You see how discolored and dark that inner is. This here should look as shiny and polished as that. The only concern I have, and because these have been through a wash tank already, right here a seal rides. And that's got to be baby butt smooth. Otherwise it tears the seal out and then grease gets inside of here, messes up your bearings. I'll take some real fine emery paper to that, because right here where this jagged stuff is just nasty. We'll take a file and clean that up, take some emery paper. It appears that the seals there's some ripples. I don't know if you can see it in the darn camera or not. Hang on here. Actually, it's taking a pretty good picture. that should be no grooves. That should be totally smooth all the way around. I'm going to talk to Rob if we can clean that up. We can use this spindle. That seal has to have a good surface to seal against. You can see that the spindle's been hammered on and beat up. This one here, the sealing surface has no grooves, and this one does. I'm just going to see how far they go here. We got to take a file to this up here. We'll take some. Yeah, I don't like that. It's a big catch. We're just going to take a file to this. We're going to emery paper this. If we can smooth this up where we're comfortable with the seal still sealing, then we'll leave it. You can see it's been a little hot and kind of chiseled on, but it hasn't bent or gotten dangerous. Obviously, this holds the entire front wheel of the car on, so it's not something you mess with as far as leaving some bad imperfections or something dangerous there. So we won't do that. But that's the condition of the spindles. They're going out to get new bushings put in. Oh, wow. They're going out to get bushings put in this housing here. And if we don't feel comfortable with it, we'll, at least that one there, we're going to put a used one on. So we'll get back in a bit. We'll try, we're going to have to replace at least one bearing. And we're going to try it on here and make sure it fits the spindle properly. Okay, he's got the rear axle pulled apart. The gear lube isn't, I keep pinching my darn finger. Gear lube isn't totally grody and shot.
It's all right there.
So someone has probably,
It looks okay.
I see discolor.
Oh, that was from the steering box.
Oh, the steering box is pretty nasty?
Yeah, steering box is black.
Oh, so you put the bolt in here. Yeah, you're not going to use them over.
Smells.
So the rear axle grease wasn't too shot as far as
There's one of the bearings.
discoloration.
It had like a little catch on it.
You got a rag? I'm back here playing in the mud, playing in the goo. This is one of the bearings out of the rear axle?
Yeah, the other one's on the axle shaft.
Yeah, but that looks pretty dirty inside.
The other one's right there.
Hold the outside of it for me. Let me spin the middle. That's smooth as silk. You said you felt a catch in one of them?
Yeah, and it might have been in that one.
That one feels really nice. It looks dirty as heck.
Well, I kind of cleaned it out a little bit. That was pretty rough right off there.
Even if I push down on it and put a load on it,
Yeah.
I feel a little restriction in this one. But I got a catch just there.
Maybe that's the bearing.
I just got right there.
When I had the axle,
Feel that. Rub that. Push down and feel it.
yeah.
Feel the hard catch.
Yeah,
We got to find, is it debris or is there a divot out of a bearing?
Even
There's
if
a divot out
even
of
if it's debris, I'd still change the bearing.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's got a divot in the bearing, you may not feel it every time, but when it's spinning a lot, this thing's gonna sing to you.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna.
That was, yeah. That
I can't chance that.
that
They've got contamination in them, so they're not going to be smooth like a.
That was the driver's side. The driver's side made a lot more noise than.
Yeah, this has a catch. This has a catch in it. They're what, $20?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to put 2 new ones in. Now,
Oh, you got this far apart. You want to go on.
can you hold this camera here a minute? Just aim it at the rear end. I feel the spider gears. You know, there's virtually no backlash in this thing.
I know. I noticed that before we took it apart.
You know, I'm going back and forth here.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel. That shouldn't be noisy. I feel no back. You're supposed to have a little.
I didn't really hear any noise coming from the center.
Yeah, you're supposed to have a little backlash.
The drivers.
This has very little.
The drivers.
So we're going to pull this, put a seal in here, a boot, clean this up and paint it, throw it back together with a solid boot, and put inner and outer grease seals in here and 2 new bearings.
Yes.
Leave this alone.
And those O-rings.
These don't look good. These are all weather checked and split. Whoa, that one feels like a pretzel. Can you see it in the
I don't
picture?
know if you can see it in the camera.
Well, it's tearing in half by me squeezing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're not putting that back on. So I've been busy all day. You want the 2 rubbers that go here,
Yeah.
and you want these,
Yeah.
and you want a split, not a split
Solid
boot. You want a solid boot so we don't have any possibility of leakage. His clamps look good. You want to use them over?
Yes. Clamps are good.
We'll just clean them up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Now, I cannot find my tool for that, but
I might have one.
I was thinking about that, and I thought we sent it to one of the customers because they wanted to get their rear end apart.
That would.
Top, I'm like.
This is
tight,
the.
loose, tight, loose, and then I looked at it and I'm like, it's bent.
Yeah, this is the bolt. They call it a wedge bolt. You can see that it's like a dowel here, it slowly tapers. It's not straight anymore, and that is what was on here holding the, it holds that pin in that goes through the thing, right?
That shaft.
Holds the shaft in place. It goes through a slot.
There'd be a flat spot on it.
It goes through a flat spot right here. So this goes through the body like that, holds the shaft in, which literally holds the rear axle together. So we're not going to use this bolt over. I'm not even going to attempt to straighten it, which I might be able to do.
No.
That's just too dangerous. This comes out and this pulls out.
Well, it can't pull out because it's got a nut on the front.
Oh, but it could chuck back and
It
forth
can chuck the, yeah,
and destroy the bushing. Speaking of,
they looked okay.
they're just dirty, aren't they?
Yeah. They looked all right.
It's like mud.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It's like this car was underwater or something. Sometime.
Well, I'm seeing.
Well, that rear end, you know, that rear end could have been sitting outside somewhere.
Yeah, I'm seeing some scoring on this bushing.
It has been replaced. That's not the original rear end.
I'm seeing scoring on this bushing, but I'm not
Well,
sure.
you see lines where the
Right there. Right here. That's not normal.
Can you feel it with your finger?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Feel that pitting through there. Isn't that supposed to be baby butt smooth?
Yeah, it
Is there a lot of wear though?
is.
Diameter wear. I shouldn't be able to see or feel. Those grooves are for grease. Grease track to go around.
Well, that's what I thought you were seeing.
Now,
Well,
this
mine-
side here, as smooth as it is exactly what this other side should look like.
The other one's still in.
You got some,
It didn't come off.
yeah, we'll have to clean it and see if I'll mic it and see how far off it is. We don't need issues with his rear end being clunky or anything like that. The other one is still in the
Yeah, it's in the ship.
here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's pulling right out.
Yeah, it should.
Look at this. It's like swamp mud. Can you
Yeah, I know.
take the rag and wipe that so I can watch you wipe it off and let's see what it looks like. That should be. It had those rubber seals on it, though, right? But they were all weather checked and cracked.
Yeah, they were all split. See this one, well, right there. It's all worn out.
It's in the same spot,
Burnt.
isn't it? Huh?
It's like burnt.
That's what the other one looks like. It's got like gouges in
Not
it.
like this one. This one's really bad.
This one's really bad. It's grooved way in deep. I'll have to see if I have new ones.
Yeah, you got no ones.
All right. Well,
Usually you have. But
other than that, the rest of the rear end
What I
seems really nice.
you know, as bad as these are, how bad are the brass bushings in that?
In where?
In that housing.
In here?
Is this this sleeve rides in a brass housing?
Oh, yeah, it does. Again, until I toss me that rack, until I clean them out, they're really, really muddy. We're getting into a can of worms. We start changing everything here on this rear end. This is not good.
Well, now I'm wondering if we pull this half off and look at the pig. Now I'm wondering if we should pull this
Look inside.
half off and look at the pig.
Look at the bearings.
I hate to do it.
Your brass looks all scored all to crap. It ain't pretty. Shouldn't be polished bronze all the way around. It shouldn't have these dark discolorations and gouges in it. Now the grooves are grease grooves.
Yes, yeah, for that greaser. You
But-
gotta make sure you get them, press them back in exactly the right spot.
So that this grease can push grease, or that zert can push grease into them. I'm going to take some emery paper lightly, and not remove material, but try to clean them up. They might be just hot spots. They, heat spots.
Oh, that one, that bushing's pretty.
The metal bushings are toast. I'm hoping the bronze we can clean up. I don't want to press them out and get into that. I'm afraid.
Don't they come in a kit?
No, but I'm afraid this doesn't look good, Rob.
The one.
No, both of them. I just cleaned the other one. It's dark as can be. That should be like a polished bronze and real smooth, right? It isn't. It's all gouged and... Now, one side of it, one small area of it, is pretty good.
Yeah, the area that doesn't ride.
Where the area doesn't ride and doesn't get all the tension. Yeah. This is what it should look like.
Even that washer on the floor.
You don't want to, that's a spacer, your shim, you got to have those. The sides that it doesn't ride on are decent. Where there's any wear or tension, the bushings are all gouged and discolored. One's worse than the other. Turn it. I'll see if I can clean it up. I'll get a caliper and mic it and see if it's worth saving.
There
Or
might be good ones on that rear end over there too. That pull apart.
you might have some good used ones. Yeah, we're trying to. All right.
Because we do have a rear end, a couple rear ends over there that pull apart.
And you did find me after 6 tries, you said. We're replacing this spindle as we talked about before. So I do have a good used one. And we're going to run that across the street and get the kingpins done so we can actually start finish cleaning up and putting the front end together. Back again. Front of the engine here is all cleaned up, all painted. We're working on the cleaning up. We'll be painting some other things. We're going to clean up, shoot a little bit inside this engine, clear out some of that sludge. While he was working on this side, because the leak is here, he found out why the leak is here. See how sloppy loose that bolt is? It's because the threads inside the engine block are all stripped out and the bolt isn't biting into anything. So they put, I don't know, they put putty or whatever they did on it,
Right.
to try and get it to stay. But this bolt is stripped out in the block. So what we're going to do is we're going to drill that out and do what's called putting a helicoil in that hole. You drill the hole slightly bigger with this. You tap it with that. You run a new set of threads in. This outside thread is this tap size, and the inside thread, grab that bolt there. The inside thread is 6mm bolt. So we'll put a whole new set of threads in. It's just that one hole, right?
Yep. Apparently,
The
that's
very,
the only one
the
that's
very
leaking.
one that was
I'm
leaking.
not
Yeah.
taking the rest of them apart.
Well, when you
unless he wants
when
me
you
to.
when you took these out, you haven't tightened them yet. You just
I
kind of
haven't touched any bolts. other
you
than
only pulled that one out.
That's the only one I was going to mess with. I wasn't going to mess with
Okay,
the
but
rest.
to do what we got to do, we got to take the whole cover off now.
What?
Will that drill? Oh, that drill might elongate this hole. But you might be able to sneak it through and do the helicoil with that cover right on.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can get away with it, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, I have to tip the block the other way and blow the little chips out of it.
Oh,
It
yeah.
ain't going to be hardly nothing, but
No,
this
the other
whole
cover's
side's
off.
open, so.
You left the other cover off so we can
Yeah.
clean that out, so we're good there. Okay. And then your intention is to paint this cover.
Wow, you want that cover painted?
I think so. I think I want to paint the side of the block too. Make it all look real nice.
Okay, man.
We'll clean up around. You still need
The valve cover gas.
valve cover gasket so we know that's
But I
leaking.
ain't putting that on until everything is done
Yeah. All right.
and the motor's in the car.
Well,
Once I set the motor in the car, then I'll do the valve cover gas.
okay. I will get the kingpin stuff over and get it done. We'll get some pictures in the next couple days here, unless you come up with something else that we need to take some pictures of. Oh, I know what you were telling me.
That hole is twice as big as it needs to be.
So this is shot, and we need to get.
I don't know where the new used one is.
You found a used one?
Yeah.
Well, I'll show that later. And Rob was asking me if I had messed with this nut on here. And I said, no, I haven't touched anything. He said, well, it was finger loose, and it was turned a couple of turns loose. And that's why the oil was just pouring out of, or dripping out of here badly. Had this have vibrated enough to come off, the timing chain would have jumped tooth,
It would have blew them all.
and the pistons would have come up, smacking the cylinder head and valves, and well, actually, they would hit the valves, driving them into the cylinder head, and it could have destroyed the engine. Could have broke the crankshaft, camshaft. It could have just literally destroyed the engine. So whoever put this together didn't even tighten this nut.